So how is the PE King doing? I prefer PE Messiah as that's part of the branding, but good so far. I just got this massive sleeve from Mint and I was using that for retention. I was like literally hanging at like 9.5 stretch flaccid practically all morning. So Toola says he's starting to realize that he might want a big D or monster D because of the fetish of having it. Congratulations. What size do you consider a monster D? 8x6 is huge. What size is a monster? It really depends. Monster to me comes down to more perception than anything. So like you can have a monster dick at like 7.5 by 5.5 if you're fucking like 7.5 or not 7.5, just small petite women, right? But like if you're into curvy ladies, you're gonna need a lot more meat to have the right perception, and then it doesn't necessarily scale that well. So to me, it really comes down to like how it looks for monster than anything else. And like if you are a relatively big guy, you like it's just another thing you got to worry about. So Kenny, can PE cause lower back pain? Yes. So like if you hang on the end of the chair like this and then slouch, you're gonna just be nothing but in like completely slouched forward, having all the weight on your tailbone rather than your actual pelvis. Yeah, if you don't have good posture while you're hanging, for example, or when you're stretching, it can definitely cause lower back pain. So Zero, when interval pumping and adding in a set or two, it seems like there's a steady increase to edema. Does that mean you've already hit fatigue? So not necessarily. You could just be, so you're getting edema pretty fast at the last 2 sets that you added, correct? That's going to be relatively normal, but at the same time, the formula is expecting some edema. So like, unless you're hitting 8% already and then you go to 10%, that's most likely going to be edema, right? So I wouldn't worry about it all too much. A little bit of edema is going to pull in some growth factors, but like we don't want an obscene amount of edema. And if you don't know what that is, go to r/pumping to make sure. Oh, look, an ad. Isn't that awesome? But Forsaken, I've been pumping for a few times here and there to get used to it. After my pump session, my flaccid tends to be smaller, but obviously thicker because of edema. If it's smaller, that's probably overwork. You also seem like a really stressed out guy for no particular reason, so it could just be the added stress response overdoes it. Your edema lasts for more than 24 hours. I tolerate 200 milligrams of mercury quite well without a problem, so why the edema lasts so long? Well, depends on how active you are, and some people just have a lot lingering swell response. Like, it also comes on like your body weight too for that. But in general, if you're a new guy, you really shouldn't be doing 200 milligrams right off the bat. If you're getting that insane of an edema response, start at 150 milligrams, and then you can increase it as you go. But like, you have a shriveled flaccid, you have insane edema that lasts 24 hours. If you're not doing any kind of cardio, I can almost guarantee you that between not doing cardio and over pumping, you're just stressing other tissues too much and the lymphatic system can't really compensate. And so 140 to 150 millimeters of mercury, you're relatively active, so like it's probably that you have a relatively heavy swell response and then you are over pumping. So 140 to 150 to start. You can always add more, but it's easier to start with less and then go up. It's kind of like measure twice, cut once. Okay, Forsaken, don't ask stupid stuff. How am I over pumping when I tolerate 200 millimeters of mercury just fine? Because your dick is having a stress response and you can't get rid of the edema. So like, just because you can tolerate it doesn't mean it's optimal. It's like, you will actually numb out a bit to the nerve pain or like the discomfort. So like most people after 5 to 10 minutes will be able to pump up with more pressure because their dick kind of like gets how do you put it, over signaled or over stimulated, and therefore it numbs out a bit, and that's why you can do more. So like, just because you can do 8 inches of mercury doesn't mean you should be doing 8 inches of mercury. If you're having that shriveled flaccid with a lot of edema, that's overwork. There is no way about it that it's not overwork. Okay, so Hitman, if you pump around 7, 8 p.m., go to sleep for 8 hours, is it normal to be pumped still? yes, this is like the entire premise of my feeder sets at night. It's like the best thing I've noticed for girth gains, because like your heart is going to be like 80% of its normal resting heartbeat. So you're just not going to be able to drain your lymphatic channels as quickly. Additionally, lower blood pressure in general. So like that shit just sticks around a lot longer. And like if you're really good about it, you should have like the biggest morning wood of your life, because you already have all that swell. And then like you signal a lot of activity. It should be relatively large in the morning too. And then you pump up again immediately when you wake up. Keep that shit all throughout the day. That's going to be like probably the best thing you can do for girth. So Mylene, are newbie gains a thing, and do they slow down? Notice the difference in the feel of holding my thing. I've been doing PE for only a month and a half. So like, I don't like telling people this, but like in my first 6 weeks of PE, I gained like a ½ an inch. That's just straight up newbie gains. But like if I kept that rate up, I would have been a foot long by the time I was 21. Right, so like it does slow down. It is, all it is your collagen taking better shape. So like whatever you have was never really formed in a, you know, uniform shape. So we're stretching it out a little bit better. And then we are increasing erection quality. So between the 1/4 of an inch they can get from shape change most of the time, and the 1/4 of a ½ an inch with erection quality boost, you can get like a ½ an inch in your first 3 to 4 months if you're lucky. And then more like ½ an inch in 6 months. And then after that, it really slows down. Like we're talking an 1/8 an inch a month if you're like relatively lucky. That's my target rate for most people, but you know, everyone's gonna have a slightly faster or slower grow response. So Hitman, does using a compression hanger make your erection quality go up? All PE should have a chronic increase of erection quality. So like, even if, since you're clamping the size of your dick, it's still going to work. It's just more so the matter of the fact that if you overdo it, your erection quality will drop. But we're telling your body to produce a lot of growth factors, and therefore it's going to send a lot of activity there in general. So even right after a session, you should see relatively good erection quality. Like, again, it's going to be workload dependent. But for me, I have really good boners right now because my workload is relatively lightweight. And then it's just chronically feeding the tissues. So like I get aroused easily, I get hard easily. You should expect something similar. All right, Zero. Is it normal to be bigger? Wait, is it normal to not be bigger of a cock ring? No pumping beforehand. So like there's two, I'm not sure exactly what questions, so I'll answer the 2 questions that I think you're asking. You can be bigger with a cock ring, no pumping. Straight up. It's probably a sign that you have some form of erection quality improvement. If it's, or issue. So like if you get more than, let's say, an 1/8 an inch bigger, there's room for erection quality improvements on the table. If you don't get bigger, or like notably bigger, that's fine too. It just means that your erection quality is good, or that your cock ring is not tight enough to cause a lot of distension. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it all that much. Like based off of your picture. So Sam, is it okay to do PE while sick, or is it useless? So like, it depends on the sickness. Like I would say that I probably lost size from COVID because I was doing PE and I was stressing out the tissue so much. My body said, okay, it's time to survive. So let's, you know, just not repair the dick and let it kind of fall on the wayside. And that's probably why I lost size, because I was trying to keep as much size as I could during COVID. And that was like half the issue. So I would, like, if you are like bedridden, can't move, don't do PE. If you got a minor head cold, you're good to go. And Just the Mo says click the elite button, but he actually meant the like button. So like, if you could like and subscribe, that'd be great. Again, this is more for the community. You don't have to, but like, it also strikes my ego a bit. There will be a replay of all this stuff if you only can catch it bits and pieces, and I'll try to get the interesting stuff, you know, like the non-constant newbie questions. Enzo, what would be the guide for temporary gains before maximum length by pumping? Maybe an idea for a video alone. For quick explanation here, thanks. Okay, well, let me read that again. Temporary gains for both maximum length and girth. So like, you want to be as big as possible right before sex is what I'm assuming. Honestly, if you do like an hour of length, like, you know, hanger, extender, normal wear, Wear it as long as you can comfortably for an hour. Wait, hold on. You want to like make sure you get the stretched out state. So like you need to get fatigue. That's going to be 2 to 3% longer. That's going to take you 40 minutes to 60 minutes, right? And then you can literally pump up like 20, 30 minutes after that. And like, no joke, guys, I'm like a 1/4 inch longer after I do that routine, plus like 20 to 30 minutes of pumping, whether it be intervals or just static holds. It's just like you have to monitor your edema response. If you want to be as big as possible and you don't care about edema, you can literally pump for 3 hours. I don't know how usable it's going to be after that, but like for me, for sexual performance, the like max size ratio being like almost perfect, 40 to 60 minutes of length work plus the 20 minutes of pumping afterwards is going to get me as thick as possible without a lot of edema, and as long as possible without a lot of edema. So Jamar, after a length session, how long are you afterwards compared to your normal? How long does that typically last? So it wasn't always like this, but like I have much better erection quality, and I guess more accurately erection density the past year or so. So like I will go from like an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch longer depending on how aroused I get after a session for the next 2 to 4 hours. So like I can't promise you guys will have the same thing. I've been at PE for a while, so like I might just have a lot of dense tissue and it kind of accordions. It's, you know, like a slinky almost when I do stretch. So like it's going to be similar to like a pump effect, but it's going to be a lot less aggressive or notable. But like if you pair your length routine with a pumping routine, I can guarantee you'll be a lot longer right after the pumping routine. So Control Gray, when I talk about red light therapy, I also include near infrared therapy, which penetrates 2 to 3 centimeters into the tissue. I believe it could be beneficial for stimulating repairs and, you know, growth activity. It's not that you're wrong. Like if there's scientific evidence saying that it does that, especially in collagenous tissues, then it's going to help penis enlargement. The problem is like the $500 light, or I don't know how much they are, whatever investment of the light, going to be worth the like 10% increase in gains. So like again, we can only really gain like 1/8 of an inch a month at most. Is like that 1/80th of an inch worth the extra setup time? To me, not really. The other benefits, such as like discoloration treatment, definitely. But for just eking out a little bit more, I don't think it's worth it. A super chat. Okay, exercise flower. What do you think the best extension or position to extend in is? Sitting, standing, laying. Okay, best angle for extender to be at. So for me, it's going to always be straight down or straight out. Going straight up's a bit dangerous because it puts too much pelvic floor strain. As for, let's see. As for like positioning, it really doesn't matter if you're lying, seated, or standing. Honestly, whatever you can do comfortably for an extended period of time is going to be best. You'll probably avoid less like let's say lower back issues if you don't sit, as what was his name, Barry or Wally, what's his name, Kenny, there we go, Kenny Wallace was bringing up that if you sit like with a rounded back, you're going to have some potential lower back issues. So like just make sure you have good posture while you're seated, and then you can do it either way. But like all my work, PE work, is either done here or the couch that's in this corner. So like it's practically always seated. Just be as comfortable as you can. SBT, when I pump the next 2 days, I have penile shrinkage. What can I do to avoid that? So we would have to know how much pressure you're using, how long you're pumping, and like how aggressively you're masturbating afterwards. Okay, so if you are let's start with masturbation. If you stress that tissue out so much right after you pump, you're basically training it to be in that shriveled state. So let's not try to jerk off at least as aggressively after pumping. I'm not saying that you are, this is just from personal experience. Then with pressure, like if you just started and you're trying to do, let's say 10 to 12 inches of mercury, there's a good chance that you are not equipped to handle that much weight. It'd be the equivalent of walking into the gym and throwing 135 on the bench press and not really knowing how much you can bench press to start. So always start with the bar and then work your way up. In this case, the bar is 5 to 7 inches of mercury. And then we can talk about time. If you are doing more than 20 minutes at a time as a new guy, I can almost guarantee you you're going to stress the shit out of your dick. So lock back the time, lock back the pressure. Don't jerk it as much immediately following your pumping session if you are. Okay. Hitman, man, this stuff at this point, I'm going to need to buy the book. Hold on, my goodness. How did I forget how to read? Okay, Hitman. At this point, I'm going to need to buy that book. This stuff is gold. So you don't have to buy my book, guys. But if you want to support me, it does help me a lot. It's literally how I live at this point. I don't really take that big of a paycheck from Leviathan and Peak Male Physique because stocking comes first. But anyway, if you watch the streams, if you watched all my content, all the stuff is out there for free. It's just the book makes it much more organized than YouTube ever could. BD, have you switched to M9 style PE being low tension, high duration? No, and what he's doing is not low tension. So I do a modulation of tension. M9 does, let's just hang 5 pounds for 4 to 6 hours straight and see what happens. What I do is I get all my actual growth work done in about 30 to 40 minutes. And then I'm going to hold that shape at low tensions to avoid as much fatigue as possible for 2 to 4 hours. And then when I'm feeling adventurous, I'm going to pump 2 to 3 times a day on top of that at relatively low workload pressures. So that way I'm chronically elongated and chronically engorged. So that way my dick doesn't really have a choice but to take this bigger shape. The only real growth limit then is how much new tissue I can produce. But since I've been doing PE for a decade at this point, I should have a lot of disorganized collagen fibrils that if I'm chronically stretching and stretching and stretching, they'll break down enough that they'll form in this biggest shape possible. Like, and also, this is what I don't really get. I don't know how M9 was able to do 4 to 6 hours at 5 pounds of tension. Because, like, I would do, that is going to be literally double, like, my routine at the end of high tension hanging, for example. So, like, I get up to 15 pounds in an hour. He's still doing 5 pounds for 6 hours. That's literally double the work when we do it from, like, a time versus weight perspective. So, like, honestly, I don't know how he didn't overwork. But, I mean, he could have. He just never wrote it about it. But, whatever. So you guys fuck after a PE session. I can't. My dick is tired. So, like, I mean, I definitely do. But, like, again, I modulate my workload. So once, like, the more experience you get with PE, the less stress you see right after your session. But, like, if you're trying to have, like, be as big as possible for sex and not have impact on performance, do your PE, wait 2 hours, and then, like, maybe do, like, 5 minutes of pumping. And then get to it. You'll probably be as big as possible without, like, an overly fatigued pelvic floor. Logic suggests when your bell size or your gland size is the same size as the median bell, that's when you jump up. So, like, we have the median bell being good for up to, like, 5 to 5 1/4 inches. So when you get to, like, 5 1/8, that's when you probably want to get a bigger bell for your glands. But it's probably a good idea to, like, let's say start with the medium, get that swelling, and then jump up to the large so that way you can expand more. But the more room you have in the bell, the greater chance for blisters and slippage. So, like, you just gotta play it safe, you know, take your time adding it on, maybe even drop the weight a bit so you can get used to the new size bell. But that's, I'm actually gonna have to upgrade my bell here soon to a 45 millimeter, and they messed up the mold, so they have to redo it all, so it's gonna be another 2 weeks. But I'll make a video about it when it comes in, like how to upgrade bell sizes. So for Forsaken, how does a beginner use the NewBie gains for best way for length extender manuals? Well, you're saying that manuals are a waste. They are definitely not a waste, because, like, one of the most prolific gainers I know, Hank, gained with manuals and a pump. I gained with manuals. A lot of people gained with manuals. They are not a waste. Extenders just make it so you don't have to be tugging on your dick for 20 to 30 minutes every night, and you use that instead. what you would do is the interval length protocol, 10 1-minute sets and then 2 5-minute sets at a relatively low tension. Work your way up to about 5 pounds if you're trying to do a high tension extender. So we did that one. Girth too big. What are the best resources for ligament work? I saw your video with BTC hanging, BTC holds, BTC pulls, erect push downs. Are these really only ones starting from a really high angle? Yeah, so like the only other thing you could really consider is like weighted pumping. And like it's a really dumb idea, but it should work. So like basically you get a dick pump, right? You put it on and then you put like 3 to 5 pounds of weight on at the tip. So like you're doing like an erect push down while you're pumping. And that's gonna basically isolate the ligament while you get the stretch of the shaft as well. I don't really recommend it. It's something I did try briefly, but that's like the only thing other than all that stuff. But like ligament stretching is like the backbone of physiotherapy, right? So if you just do it for 20, at most 20 minutes a day, 2 10-minute sessions a day, you're gonna have really good change in ligament flexibility. It's just a matter of how often you do it and how long you do it. Okay, load. Does a massage gun machine use the same as vibration? I investigated. They use the same motor as the 2034. That's very odd coincidence, but it's not the same kind of vibration. So like massage guns do this. What we want is this. Okay, so, or more accurately this, like full vibration directly all throughout the shaft. What this does is pinpoint all that energy into one location, and that's not going to transfer to the rest of the shaft. So a roundabout way would be going all around the shaft constantly for 20 minutes, but do you know how much of a pain in the ass that would be? Right? So like I think the massage gun would be more expensive than getting the little vibrator too. So like I don't really know why you would want to do the massage gun unless you already had one. And on top of that, this is going to be a lot bigger of a amplitude vibration than anything else. So we're talking like 1 to 3 millimeters, while my little gray motor, which I don't know if I put away or not, is only going to go maybe a millimeter. So like a millimeter in that big of a square compared to 3 millimeters in a pinpoint, you know, that's what makes sense to me, at least. So Dave, do I change anything to a length protocol where I use vibration? What would be the difference? So like the main thing is you're not going to need the loading sets at the beginning. So the 10 1-minute sets, the vibration is going to handle that because it's setting tissue or energy into the tissues that's going to cause the collagen to break down really fucking fast. So like you don't need the 10 1-minute sets at the beginning, but you still should take the tension off every 5 to 10 minutes just to make sure you don't get blisters, because that added friction in the bell is going to increase your risk of blistering. So just play it safe. Still take it off every 5 to 10 minutes though. Okay, swift to the point. What would your go-to routine be to last as long as possible? How would you program it? Cardio, reverse cable stretches. So I'm not actually a really good guy to answer this question because like I lost my virginity with death grip. So I didn't come with a woman for like a month. Okay. And like basically I had to learn how to come. So for me, I don't know if like I'm such a performer, like, you know, like on the stage or whatever, basketball, whatever you want to call it, that like something flips in my brain, it's showtime. I don't get like that much sensation down there. For you guys, obviously edging is going to be teaching you how to get to the point of no return and how to avoid climaxing. So like you learn your limit, that way you can modulate your own rhythm. So that way you can, you know, change it as you get close and get better at sex that way. And it also teaches you just endurance. Kegels is going to strengthen the pelvic floor so that way it just doesn't fatigue. For me, like if I jerk it for more than 40 minutes, I can almost tell you that my dick's gonna like actually go limp really fast because my iliocavernous muscle like gives out. So like you need a relatively strong pelvic floor to be able to have a boner for longer than 30 minutes, for example. And then reverse Kegels is going to help keep that tissue from getting too tight down there. So like for me, it was 3 sets of failure in high school for kegling. So like once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once at night. And like now that I know that I need to reverse kegel, I tell you to do reverse kegels 5 to 10 minutes after you did kegels. And then cardio, obviously cardio has way more benefits than just sex, but like you need to be able to at least pump it for 20 minutes if you want to be like a sex god. So work up getting your zone 2 cardio and your core strength up so that you can last for 20 minutes physically. So Zode, nice to see me on stream again. That's kind of my day job at this point. I signed up with a men's health clinic and going on GLP-1 inhibitors soon. That's stuff I'm on for my weight loss. Looking forward to getting healthier. So the main thing you need to know about this stuff is like any GLP-1 agonist is going to make it very easy for you to undereat, but as soon as you come off, if you didn't build the habits to like keep the weight off, it's just going to come back. So use it to curb your appetite, get into a very healthy state, but like really what you should be doing is in the meantime trying to learn how to be healthy. So like, you know, cardio, counting calories just so you know what you're eating, and then when you get to the end of the, you know, round of semaglutide or whatever you're on, slowly wean off of it so that way you just don't get hit in the head with the old hunger that you used to have. Okay, Mark, since you subscribed, you know how YouTube works. I get a few feeds from subliminal sites saying just listening will increase girth and length. Are you aware of them or any thoughts? Trust me, it's going to be very minor. If that, the only way it could potentially work is like if you have, let's say, a tight neurological issue with your penis where you're chronically stiff, tight, all that kind of hypnotherapy will help you relax. And then like if you can't get to a full size erection because your tunica is so tight, eventually it'll relax and then it'll actually be bigger, but it's not like you actually grew, you just relaxed. So I wouldn't really put too much merit into it. Like if you do massage mechanics enough, you would have the same response. And that's going to be a lot more surefire. So the clinic tells me to titrate off nearing the end of the medicine. Yeah, that sounds right. And it's retatrutide. That's weird because that's a that's not finished clinical trials yet. But there's a CrossFit gym trying to get my biz too with nutrition and personal training. Well, the only thing I want you to be sure of is that they start you off as a, like, if you haven't done it before, as a beginner, because CrossFit has this issue where since it got so big so fast, there's a lot of bad coaches. So like, I'm not trying to shit on CrossFit, I'm just shitting on shitty business practices more than anything else. So you need to make sure that you can stay safe while you do it, because the main thing about fitness is the fact that you can show up every day. So your shoulders blown out in the first 2 weeks, that's going to really set you back. So just take it slow is better than anything else. So just the mo. Depending on how long you stay on semaglutide, that's like ozempic for those who don't know, your stomach could shrink, so your appetite should not just jump back to your previous way. Just stay conscious and don't eat when you're bored, drink water. Yeah, so like even if it's your stomach though, like some people are just literally addicted to food. Like my dad is practically addicted to food. So for him, it's not as simple as just his stomach's gonna shrink so he's not gonna be hungry. Like this guy literally had lap band surgery. So that's when they take like a silicone band, put it around your stomach so it literally can't expand, and he still was able to like, eventually his stomach got bigger again, like his actual stomach, so he ate more food and then it was just the same cycle. The difference with like semaglutide is like it kind of convinces your brain that you're not hungry, and it's a much safer approach in general. But yeah, in general, your stomach will shrink. If you have just a bit of discipline, it should be a lot easier once you're done. And Tree's like, keep up the good work. Thank you. I am trying my best. My lean. So how much cardio do you do a week? So I'm doing 25 minutes in the gym for sure every day, which is going to, except for leg days, but like my leg days are zone 2. So like, I don't know if you want to count that, but 25 times 6, I'm at 150 minutes there. And then I don't know if you want to count my walking my dogs, but that takes an hour not an hour, half hour every day. So we're talking 150 minutes in zone 2, and then light cardio for another, what is 30 times 7? Should be 350. So like, I'm pretty fucking active, all things considered, before we even consider weightlifting. The problem is, like, I just didn't make very good food choices this year. Or more accurately, what happened was I stopped treating food as if it was for fuel source, and like I was just trying to make my breakfast delicious as possible. So like it would be steak, eggs, potatoes, grass-fed butter, and it was like very calorie dense, very nutrition dense, but like it was not going to keep me relatively lean. So that's something I learned this year. So loat. How can I uncover my pee? I have like 15% body fat, but my bone press is like 7 inches longer. So like the obvious answer is get shredded, but at the same time, that's a bit of a pain in the ass, speaking from experience. And two, if you are actually pulling up base skin, so like if you're cut, for example, and it was not the most clean job, you can have some base skin pull up, hide your length a bit. So what you actually need to do in that case is grow a little bit more dick skin so that skin sits neater at the base. I had some pretty good success with it in a short order. Also, if you use an extender, it does it slowly compared to like if you actively treat it. But like if you want to have no fat pad, it's probably going to be first genetic related. Most guys are going to have minimal fat pad at 10% body fat. And like if it's still there, there's something called cavitation therapy that should just basically melt it off. I have a couple videos on it on my channel. Okay, so Destroyer is like, I'm trying to get 1 milligram of retatrutide a week for my summer shred. I'll keep you updated. I'm fairly lean at 250 pounds. How big are you, fucker? So for context, guys, I'm like 215 right now. 252 pounds would be like 40 pounds on me, unless he's like 6'5". He's a gigantic individual. 2 milligrams is probably going to be enough to like knock you on your ass and not feel hungry at all. That's what the medical literature suggests, so I would actually start there and just hold it there. Like I'm on week 5 or 6, I felt no like real hunger, more so like cravings, but like cravings are much easier to manage than hunger. Respectfully, will you ever get peeled? So I'm trying, but like I don't know if I have the phenotype to look peeled just based off of how thick my skin naturally is. Like I'm gonna get to the point where I should have abs and I should not have any pocket of fat on my stomach, but like, you know, your definition of peeled might be different than my definition of peeled, right? Peeled to me is gonna be almost contest ready for bodybuilding. I don't wanna get that lean, but I do wanna have like, you know, washboard abs, right? So that's the goal. I don't know how long it's going to take, and I don't know how pretty it's going to be, but like effectively speaking, I'm going to get my waist down to like 34 inches because my hips, like physically speaking, the bones are 34 inches. So I don't know if I can get much lower than that. Okay, Swift Point at 6'2", consistent in the gym for 2 years, look pretty good. Entering a bulk right now. What is the max amount of muscle I can build naturally? Okay, so this is why it's really important for you guys to know like what natural limitations are. At 6'2", oh man, hold on, let's pull up a website. So he said he was 6'2", and we're gonna say he's 15% body fat for this thought process. The heaviest you could probably get naturally is gonna be about 215. And let me switch this to kg because that's going to be correct. So there's this thing called fat-free muscle index, right? If basically they took a bunch of natural lifters and then saw like the variance between all of them muscularity wise, and they made it into a number. The biggest they found was going to be an FMI of like 25. So for this, it's going to be like 230. So like if you have phenomenal genetics, no testosterone enhancement, TRT, anything like that, the most you could hold at 6'2" is 230, 15% body fat. There's some, you know, people that think you could technically hold more of a lot more training, but like we're talking phenoms upon phenoms. A normal guy is probably only going to be able to get into the 20s range. So like if you can get to 22, 23, 20, like 24 would be really insane. But like 210 at 6'2", 15% body fat is going to be fucking massive, like for a natural guy. So like if you can get anywhere from 200 to 210, now how much muscle you can gain in such a short amount of time, I'm surprised we don't lose that many people yet, is going to be so fucking slow to the point where it's going to be very easy to get fat before you actually get a notable amount of muscle. And this is why so many people are tempted to go on steroids, because it's instant gratification. So first year, you can gain probably about 15 to 20 pounds of lean tissue. Second year, that's going to be roughly half that. So you can get, 10 to, did I say 15 to 20? We'll say about 7 to 10. And then the year following that is going to be like 3 to 5 pounds, and that's where it flatlines. So it's about 3 to 5 pounds every year. So like you're only going to be gaining like half a pound of new tissue every month if you're not trying to gain fat at the same time. Now, there's some people that say you can bulk and gain a lot more muscle that way, but like speaking from experience, I bulked and then I cut and I lost the muscle that I gained. So like to me, it just makes more sense to be in a very slight surplus, if not really close to your total daily energy expenditure, and build muscle slowly over the year and see those micro improvements month to month and macro improvements year to year. But like most of you guys are going to be pretty close to your peak after year 3 or 4. And like it's just going to be like maturation of the muscle more so than actual building of the muscle.